Hey everyone, in this video we're going to be installing MySQL Server onto our machine, and we're going to be using it all wrapped in a Docker image, so we don't have to actually go and manually install SQL Server on our machine. So to start this off, let's open up our terminal, and when we open up our terminal we want to just check to make sure that we actually have Docker on our machine. And to do this we can just type docker -- version. So when we hit enter, we can see that I'm using version 20.10.2. If you don't have a version coming up here with a build, that means you don't have Docker installed. So if you don't have Docker installed, you want to go and install it. So go to your web browser, and if you're on Windows, go to this link here, and it will guide you through everything you need to do to download the Docker desktop for Windows. If you're on Mac, you can go to this link here and just follow the instructions, and you can download Docker Desktop for Mac. And if you're on some flavor of Linux, it's much easier. You can go to this link up here and it'll just guide you through. There's just a couple of commands you have to put in, and then you have Docker installed on your machine. So if we go back to our terminal, we can actually check to see what containers we have running currently in Docker. So to do this, we can type docker ps, and at the moment when we type in docker ps, we can see that we've got nothing running. We've got a container ID, an image, and some other information such as ports, but we've no actual containers running. So the first thing we want to do is we want to go and fetch our image from an online repository. The online repository is called Docker Hub, so we're going to go to that now. And if you go to Docker Hub and you search Microsoft SQL Server, you'll come to this page here. And then if we scroll down a little bit here, you'll see there's a third link. So you can select this one, which is the Express Edition, or you can select this one here. It doesn't actually matter. But for this video, we're going to select the first one here. So I'm just going to copy this, and then I'm going to go back to my terminal, and I'm going to just paste it straight in here and hit enter. And for you, it mightn't happen just as quick as it did for me. You might have to actually pull down the repo, but since I've done this before, it has pulled down the repo and I've pulled down all the downloads before, so it was pretty quick. But for you, it may take a couple of minutes just to download all the files. But anyway, when you've entered this command, you should get this as a response, or you should get some number that's like this, that's full of letters and digits. And then if we go and type docker ps again, we can see that we've now got something here. So it says that it was created 36 seconds ago and it's up for 34 seconds. It gives us a little bit of information as far as it's accessible on 0.0.0.0, so that's any IP address, but it's locally, so we can kind of ignore that for the minute. One important thing to note is that it's on port 1433. We're just going to keep that in mind when we're going to connect to it. It's mapping from port 1433 on our machine to port 1433 inside Docker. So that's good. Now we need to go and get a piece of software that we can actually test this out and see does it work. So the software I use is called dbbeaver. So this is what the official site looks like. It's dbbeaver.com, and if you scroll down here, you can see the different ranges of options. But this is sort of more for enterprise use. If you're just using this yourself, you can use the community version. And to get the community version, it's free. So if you just go to dbbeaver.io rather than dbbeaver.com, you can go there, you can download this, and you'll be using the same version as me. If you have another database management software that you like to use, that's fine, work away. If you're on Linux or Mac or Windows, you can use dbbeaver. If you're on Windows, a really popular one is Microsoft's own software. So it's called SQL Server Management Studio. So if you go to their official website, go and look for SQL Server Management Studio or SSMS, and then just hit this download button here, and it'll download that. So if we go back here and we open up dbbeaver, when you open up dbbeaver, this is what it's going to look like. So we're just going to make this full screen. Then we're going to go up here to a little plugin plus. So we're going to hit that, and then we're going to select the type of server that we're going to be using. So for this video, we're using SQL Server. So just select SQL Server, hit next. Then we've got some information pre-populated here for us. So we see that the host is localhost. So this is going to be on our actual machine. So it's going to be localhost. It's not going to have an IP address. The port number is 1433. So remember earlier when I was talking about the Docker image using port 1433, that's why we need that there. But again, it's there for us by default. The database or schema is master, so that's perfect as well. And then this SQL Server authentication, so that's going to be the credentials that we're going to use to log in. So for the username is always SA, System Administrator. And then the password is actually the password that we set in the terminal beforehand. So if we go back to our web browser and we go down to this here, so this is the command that we ran, so docker run, and if you look at this closely, it says it's setting the SA password to your strong password. So if we just copy that and we go back into DB Beaver and we put that in for our password, if we hit test connection now, it should be successful, and you can see that it's connected in 72 milliseconds, so that's good. Now just note that I have a driver already installed, so what may happen for you if this is your first time using it, before it comes up with this, it may say you need this JDBC driver, and all you do is it'll give you an option to install. Just click install and it'll install that driver, then test the connection again, and you should get this exact same screen here. So we can press OK here because we know it is connected to our actual server. So let's just go and hit finish now. So if we expand this master, we can see we've got a couple of things underneath, but we don't really want to worry about them for now. We don't have to worry about them. So what we're going to do is we're going to write some script, right? So we're just going to do a simple select statement, everything from, and then like a table name. Imagine we had a person table name here. Now we don't have it at the moment. So when we go and hit run here, it's going to say that it's an invalid object named person. That's because we don't have a person table. But what we could do is, since this is a new database, we shouldn't expect there to be any tables for us because we have to go and create our own tables. So that's exactly what we're going to do now, and we're going to create a person table. And the person table is just going to look like this. We're going to say create table person, and we're going to just have a opening round bracket. We're going to have a person ID, we're going to have a last name, a first name, an address, and a city. And we're going to have the person ID as an integer, and we're going to have our other 4 variables just as varchars. So basically just like strings or letters. So what we want to do is we want to go and run this to create our table. So I'm just going to highlight this here and hit this orange arrow. And as you can see, once we've hit that, it says that it has created a table here. So now what we should be able to do is, if we want to run this select statement again, we shouldn't get the same error that we got last time saying that it was an invalid object named person. So if we go and run this again, we see we don't get an error. So we've got a person ID, last name, first name, and address, city field, but there's nothing in that, right? So if we wanted to actually see some data from our select, we'd want to go and put some information into that database. I'm going to go and insert just one record into the database just for demonstration purposes. So this is how we insert a record. So we're going to say insert into person. The reason we're saying person is the name of the table that we created. We're going to select person ID, first name, last name, and address, city. So we're going to put in all the information possible for them, and then we're going to just say values, and then within another set of round brackets we're going to put in the data that we want. So if you remember, person ID is a number, so it's just 1 by itself, or it could be 53 or 104 or whatever. And then for our varchars, they're going to be strings, or they're going to be characters enclosed in just a single quotation mark. So if we do that and highlight it and run it, it should work for us, hopefully. So if we select that, we can see that it's been inserted into the table successfully. We've got no errors, so that looks good. But just to make sure that it is actually working, what we want to do is we want to just execute this and make sure that we can see it. So yeah, perfect. So we can see person ID, last name, first name, and now we've actually got some data. So we can see that it's Ryan Hill, the person ID is 1, he's living in Dublin, Ireland. That's great. So now what we want to do is we want to go back to our terminal and do a couple of things. So if we do a docker ps, we can see that it's now been up for quite a few minutes. It's been up for about 9 minutes or so. But what we want to do now is we want to go and stop it or pause it and see what happens to our database then. Because we know our database is working through this Docker image, but what would we do if we pause the Docker image? Where's our data? What happens to our data? So let's just try that. So if we do docker ps, we can see that we've got an ID here, and that's actually important. So I'm going to copy that, and then I'm going to put in docker, and then I'm going to say pause, and then I'm going to put in our ID that we can just copy it. So once I've done that, it gives us a response back with the same ID that we've got before. So that's a good sign. So now if we do the same command again, docker ps, which lists all our running containers, now we can see that it's up 10 minutes. So the time hasn't changed, or the time has changed by 1 minute, but it's still the same image, or it's the same container that we're working with. But you'll notice that it has this paused in brackets. So what does that mean? Well, that means if we go back to our DB Beaver and we want to run the exact same command that we did beforehand, select star from person, and we want to execute this statement, now we've got this executing query 3 seconds, 4 seconds, 5 seconds, and so on. And it's going to stay like this forever, or until it times out. So we're just going to cancel that there. And then we're going to get an SQL error, the connection is closed. So the connection is closed because we've paused our Docker instance, and now our database tool, DB Beaver, cannot reach out to it. It tries to reach out to it, but it's not getting any response. So if we go back to our terminal and we just go up and we say docker unpause, so just say docker unpause and then the ID of our Docker container. If we type this in, we should get a response back of just the Docker ID image. So if I say docker ps again and hit enter, we can see it's up for 11 minutes. So this is still the same container that's running. It's not a different container that we've made from the Docker image. It's the same instance. So again, if I go back here and I try and execute this select statement, with this piece of software it actually won't work, but I'll show you what we have to do once a Docker instance has been stopped. So if I select this and I hit execute and I go to execute this, we've still got the same thing here. We've still got the same problem, but it's quite an easy fix. All I do is I go up here to the master and I say I want to disconnect. I want to disconnect from the instance. I say yes, I want to disconnect, and then I just double click it. So when I double click it, that connects to it again, and you can see I've even got all my information that I had from beforehand. So if I just highlight this again and hit execute, then I've got my information. So even though I've paused my Docker image and I've unpaused it, all my information is still here, which is great. So that's one way you can do it if you want to stop your Docker image, or if you want to pause it for a short period of time or even a long period of time, but you don't want to delete it or stop it entirely. That's what you can do. But if you do want to delete it entirely, you can use docker stop. So to do this, you just put in docker stop, stop, and then just copy this image ID and paste it in, and again we've got this ID back. So once we get that ID back, that's a good sign. So then if we do docker ps, now we've got nothing. So when we hit pause beforehand, we still seen the instance that said it was running for 10 minutes or whatever, and then had paused, but now we see nothing. So if we go back to DB Beaver and we try and run this, we can see that we've got a problem. There's no connection for us to connect to, and if we wanted to go and run this again, we'd have to go back to our web browser. We'd have to copy this command here. So if I just copy this, then go back to our terminal and paste that in there and hit enter, and now do docker ps. You can see this is a new one because it's only been up 2 seconds, and you can see now the ID of this starts with CB83, and if we were to look at the previous image that we had, it was C5CD. So it's a different image altogether. So now if we go back to this, keep in mind it's using all the same details, the same username, same password. So we will be able to connect with this, but you'll see a bit of a shock now in a minute. So we're going to just disconnect from this and reconnect again. And now if we run this select and we hit execute, you can see that it's an invalid object named person. So what's happened is when we have stopped the instance, all the data that we had in that instance was then deleted. When we paused it and then unpaused it, the data was fine. We queried it and we could see we still had our user Ryan, but now that we've stopped it, all that data is gone. And even the fact that we had a person database again, or a person table, that's gone as well. So if we wanted to go and get this person to show with this new database instance, we'd have to go and create the table again, insert all these values again as well. So I hope you found this video informative. Thank you for watching and have a good day.